I'm Mark Miller from Livermore Labs, and I'm going to talk about user support processes and productivity. Each inquiry that comes in from a user takes resources. It may be replying to an email, it may be diagnosing and or creating a reproducer for a bug, maybe filing a detailed issue ticket. Few projects, and certainly none that I'm aware of in DOE, have dedicated resources for this. So this means developers are serving this customer support role. When they are doing that, they are not making progress on project milestones. Worse, the resources required to support user inquiries scale with the number of users. So there's kind of a penalty here. With the more widely adopted a software package becomes, the more users it has, the more efforts required to provide quality customer support. So there's a difficult trade-off that project managers have to deal with. Do you expend effort on creating better software and having poorer customer support processes, or poorer software with better customer support processes? So it's important to strike the right balance, to formalize these processes, and then to keep in mind that practice makes perfect. So what I'll be talking about here, I believe, is sort of the fusion of two broad areas within the industry. One is something that Google defined called site reliability engineering. It's basically all of the effort that they realized was going into maintaining their flagship product at the time, the Google search engine. And so the word site and site reliability engineering comes from the google.com website. But replace site with software, it means basically the same thing. Software reliability engineers fix problems that crop up and continually make incremental improvements to the software to make it more reliable, more scalable, and more efficient. The other aspect of what I'm talking about here is something called maybe user experience driven development. This is a common but somewhat more recent terminology within the industry, and it's all about continually feeding back information gained from dialogue with users and user inquiries into design, development, testing, and so forth. So I see what I'm talking about here is sort of the fusion of these two concepts, SRE and UXDD, but I'll basically use SRE as a shorthand for them as we go forward. So the basic process is that SRE work is allocated and rotated among developers in shifts. During a shift, one developer serves as the SRE primary and is responsible for all SRE activity. Except for escalations, all other developers are free to ignore SRE activity. The SRE primary responds to all inquiries within a response time goal, which the project can decide what the response time needs to be for the whole team. Note here, though, that response to a user inquiry does not equal resolution. The SRE primary does in fact aim to resolve all inquiries during their shift. However, even resolution of an SRE inquiry does not necessarily mean the user's inquiry is addressed to their satisfaction. Finally, and this is most important, during a shift there's no expectation that the SRE primary gets anything else done other than software reliability engineering work. In particular, they don't make any progress on project development milestones. So what's the difference between SRE and product development? In response to users' incidents and user inquiries, it's often possible to identify two classes of work. One is a small constructive correction, and the other one is a comprehensive solution. The constructive correction represents a small amount of work that can be done quickly to help push the software in a direction that's better. It has value if it's a step towards the comprehensive solution. It substantially reduces the impact of the issue the user was encountering, and it can be delivered much sooner than the comprehensive solution. The idea is you want to avoid increasing the technical debt of the software. And this table on the right lists a number of different attributes of constructive corrections, which represent SRE work, and comprehensive solutions, which are more associated with product development work. The whole point of these processes is to not let the perfect become the enemy of the good. Often, as software developers, we can see in the distance the comprehensive solution, and there's a desire to implement that, and if we can't implement that, we don't do anything at all. The idea here is there are steps we can take that actually will prevent further issues and in fact even engender some goodwill among your customers in that some progress was made. It's important to realize in these processes that responding to a user inquiry does not necessarily mean resolving their inquiry. What users value most of all is knowing that they've been, first and foremost, is knowing that they've been heard. After they've been heard, and that's part of responding, being responsive, knowing that they've been heard. They'd eventually like to get some idea of if, when, and how their issue will be resolved, and that can come from further dialogue with the user as well as analysis of what the problem is. All of that is aspect of site reliability engineering. It's really important that users' expectations are set properly. And in many cases, it's possible to negotiate with users over what their priorities are, and even in some cases, users may have funding that they can apply to accelerate the correction of the issues that they've encountered. So there are a few parameters to help manage SRE costs. One is the coverage hours. It's the time during which the doors are open for business and you're responding to user inquiries. And then the other is the length of shift, and finally your response time goals. As an example, on the Visit project, we have about 8 developers. Those developers are actually, all of them are split among different projects. Our coverage hours are West Coast business hours, so Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, with a break between 12 and 1 at lunch. And then also we don't work on Livermore Labs holidays. We have a shift length of 1 week, and our response time goal is 4 hours. We then round robin load balance SRE activities among developers. So it's about every 8 weeks before a developer again is required to serve as an SRE primary. Now on a team of 6, if every time a SRE primary is active, they are completely consumed with SRE activity, that would actually represent 17% of the whole team's budget on software reliability engineering effort. That might be too much, and so the solution is actually to reduce coverage. Maybe it's Monday through Friday 8 to noon, or maybe it's just Monday through Wednesday 8 to 5, and Thursday and Friday there is no coverage. If those are the knobs that you have to control, and it's important that that information gets published with your project so customers know what to expect in the way of when and how long they might be before they get a response to their issues. Often the communication involved in SRE is basically in 2 categories. One sort of first contacts, and the other one is ongoing dialogue. And the reason it's important to kind of talk about these 2 broad categories is that for first contacts, it's important for the team to be as accessible as possible. For users to be able to actually, raise their hand and say, I need help in whatever medium and whatever communication platform makes sense, whether it's MS Teams or Slack, GitHub or Twitter or whatever. So first contacts, it's great to be accessible to users, and that's very important. But for ongoing dialogue over an issue, it's important that the productivity of the development team takes priority. And in that case, you want to restrict the methods of communication that are most suitable for that process, for that ongoing dialogue, and then inform users of that requirement. So it's good to favor communication platforms that engage the team as a whole rather than specific users. So that would suggest GitHub conversations are a little bit better than, say, direct emails with developers. Another aspect of communication platform is it discoverable by search engines, and finally, does it support features like attachments and large file sizes and so forth. Many of the organizations we work with have cyber filtering and various other things that really impact the ability to send certain types of attachments or certain size of attachments. There are a number of complicating situations for switching to this modality of customer support. One is different developers on the team who may have long-standing relationships with other friends and colleagues need to be comfortable redirecting those people when they are approached first contact over issues with the software. They need to redirect them to whoever's serving the SRE primary at that time. And they need to be comfortable doing that. If they don't do that, then these processes start to fall apart because there's SRE activity going on in some mechanism other than involving the SRE primary, and then it's not getting logged and it's not getting tracked and so forth. There are certain situations where users tend to abuse support resources. Maybe they require too much hand-holding, or every issue they encounter is an urgent issue and has to be fixed right away. Once the whole development team understands who those users are and the right way of setting the expectations for those users, then the team can be more productive dealing with them. It's important also for the team to understand who the VIP users are. These are users that may have broad influence in the community, may even in fact impact future funding and so forth. So that's also important for the whole development team to know who those users are and be able to accommodate them with the right priority within these processes. There are some other aspects to complicating situations with respect to SRE as well. The final remark I want to make is it's a common misconception that customer support or SRE is an interruption to product development. At the end of the day, a successful software product involves more than the quality of the software itself. It also involves the quality of the user experience. That includes responsiveness to users' issues, ease of use, reliability, and so forth. So ensuring team members become proficient at responding to user inquiries has many benefits. Now, at the end of the day, software reliability engineering is not equal in importance to product development, but it is still very important and should not be considered an interruption to product development. It's a key aspect of maintaining a sustainable software product.